Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really strapping in for something specific, a high-stakes look at, well, narrative mechanics on General Hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
We're aiming to move beyond just, the usual soap gossip. We've got some really intriguing source materials here, and we're going to use them to dissect what might be the biggest couple shuffle GH has seen in years.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just about who's kissing who. It's more about how things like production realities, casting news, even character motivations are all being used to basically restructure the whole romantic landscape of the show.
That's absolutely right. Our mission today is to unpack this foundational rumor about Dante and Lulu. The reunion everyone's been waiting for.
Right.
And then we'll follow the potential cascade effect, like the dominoes that have to fall if that first one tips through the rest of the characters. And what's really fascinating here is the source.
Okay.
While they're very clear this is a rumor, not, confirmed spoiler,
Mm.
the outlet it comes from has a pretty solid track record for GH scoops. A good one, actually.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
It does. And crucially, this whole potential plot shift, it lines up perfectly with several really stressful things we're already seeing on screen, especially since Nathan West came back and with all the drama around the Drew Kane shooting case.
So we're treating these potential breakups and new couples not as just random writer decisions, maybe, but as deliberate structural changes.
Yeah.
Stuff designed to reset things for the long haul.
Exactly. Long-term arcs.
And the focus, the absolute epicenter of this whole shakeup seems to be the romantic futures of three main guys. Dante Falconeri, Detective Harrison Chase, and, well, very recently, back from the dead, Nathan West. Let's get into the logic behind all this potential heartbreak.
Okay, let's dive into why these changes might be, structurally speaking, almost necessary, according to these rumors.
All right, so the whole foundation of this deep dive, it really starts with one of the most anticipated and honestly emotionally charged things GH has done recently. Lulu Spencer is back. After 4 years, which is like an eternity in Port Charles time in a coma, she's awake, she's interacting. Now, a huge chunk of the fan base, especially those Dante shippers.
Oh, yeah, the devoted ones.
The expectation has been super clear. She wakes up, she has to get back with Dante. Quickly. That's the classic soap opera path, right?
And, that expectation makes total sense given their history.
Mm-hmm.
It was epic. And the tragedy that split them up, it was huge. We really need to remember what happened during those 4 years Lulu was out.
Right, Dante wasn't just sitting around.
Not at all. He went through a massive emotional journey himself. He fell deeply in love with Sam McCall. And then, well, in that classic devastating soap twist, Sam died. Tragically.
And the connection to Lulu is intense.
Incredibly intense. Sam donated part of her liver to save Lulu's life. And the whole thing was blamed on, of course, Cyrus Renaud. So Dante is faced with Lulu waking up, but he's carrying the weight of losing the woman he loved, who literally sacrificed herself for his ex-wife. Thousands of fans are rooting for them, thinking, they deserve a fresh start after all that trauma.
Yeah. I get the emotional logic, definitely. But here's where our sources throw in the potential bombshell. The key leak we have suggests a major and, probably devastating disappointment for those Dante fans.
Okay, what is it?
The rumor is very specific. General Hospital writers are actively planning not to reunite Lulu and Dante, not anytime soon anyway.
Wow.
And it's described as a deliberate choice, a pivot away from that expected happy ending.
Well, that kind of move definitely creates instant massive drama, which, let's be honest, is what soaps thrive on.
True.
The source does clarify, things can change in a writer's room, but the current plan, allegedly, is to pair both Lulu and Dante with other people. Maybe surprising people.
And does the source give any reason why?
Well, what gives this rumor real credibility, actually, is the on-screen evidence. What we're seeing supports the idea of keeping them apart.
Ah, okay. That's the key insight then. When we actually look at Dante and Lulu together right now, those scenes they share, that romantic spark, that intensity, it's not there, is it?
No, it really isn't.
The source observation, which I completely agree with, is that there are zero romantic vibes. No obvious chemistry, definitely no sign of them wanting to reconcile.
Yeah, instead of a couple heading towards getting back together,
Yeah.
what we're seeing is, well, it's logistics. They're co-parenting Rocco.
Yeah.
Their interactions are friendly-ish, a bit guarded, and like the source cleverly put it, there's a little bit of attitude, especially from Lulu, which makes sense given everything.
We've seen that, haven't we? Especially when they talk about Rocco or just their lives now. It's functional, almost transactional sometimes. scheduling responsibilities, not shared dreams or, deep emotional connection.
Exactly.
That very noticeable lack of chemistry, it really does lend huge credibility to this rumor that the writers are using this sort of coldness to justify keeping them apart. And crucially, making them available for this big couple shuffle we're talking about.
Yeah.
The non-reunion becomes the main catalyst, the thing that kicks off everything else we're about to discuss.
It's a calculated risk. If the expected reunion feels flat anyway, you get way more drama by sending them in totally new, unexpected directions. And that means you got to break up other couples who seem stable.
Okay, so if the big Dante and Lulu reunion is off the table, like the rumor says, the writers need new partners for both of them, which means strategically they have to dismantle some existing couples.
Makes sense.
And according to these sources, the first major ripple effect, the first marriage potentially on the topping block, is Brooklyn, Quartermaine BLQ, and Detective Harrison Chase. Now, on the surface, they seem pretty solid, right?
To the average viewer, yeah. But our sources are suggesting the groundwork for a split is actually being laid right now, actively.
Okay, let's get into the details here because the analysis seems really specific.
It is. The source material points to two very specific compounding stresses, really emotional ones that are supposedly chipping away at the foundation of their marriage right now. You know how soap writers work? If they want to break up a couple, they hit them where it hurts. Core identity stuff, future plans.
Okay, so what's the first pressure point?
It's the adoption issue, which has been simmering for a while, but now it's tangled up with the return of Gio Palmieri. This one's personal and potentially devastating.
Right, the adoption thing is huge for Chase. Break down the Gio part for us.
Okay, so Chase has always been pretty open about his frustration, his sadness, really, that he can't have biological kids. He was totally committed to adopting BLQ, building their family that way.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the report is that Chase was extremely upset, like really upset, that BLQ decided to delay or even pause the whole adoption process because of all the drama surrounding Gio coming back.
And Gio isn't just some random obstacle. He's specifically tied to BLQ.
Exactly. It's complicated. Gio is Chase's best friend. But even more critically, Gio is the father of BLQ's child.
Right, Leo. Noe Bailey. Actually, it gets confusing. But yes, her child.
Yes, her child. So the emotional weight here is that BLQ is now apparently prioritizing working things out with Gio.
Yeah.
Probably figuring out how he fits into the kid's life, maybe even moving him into the Q mansion.
Oh, wow.
And she's doing this over moving forward with Chase's urgent adoption plans. For Chase, who's desperate to be a father, this delay, this shift in focus, it probably feels like a massive betrayal of their shared future, like their goals aren't aligned anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. That hits right at the core of their life together, that delay, because she's focusing on her past with Gio, that creates a huge crack.
A fundamental one, and that's just stressor number one.
Okay, what's the second one? According to the sources, this one pulls Chase into his work, into the whole messy Drew Kane shooting case, which also involves Willow and Michael.
Precisely. Okay, quick refresher for anyone not glued to every episode. The Drew Kane case involves corporate espionage charges, and Willow Tate is currently being framed for it. Big legal trouble, personal trouble.
Got it.
Now, Chase, being a detective and, a guy with a strong moral compass, is putting huge energy into being Willow's most vocal defender. Her biggest defender, the source says. He is 100% convinced she's innocent, that she's been set up.
And his frustration isn't just with the system, it's with Willow's husband, Michael, too.
It is. He openly disapproves of how Michael Corinthos is handling the crisis, how he's treating Willow. Chase seems to think Michael isn't fully protecting her, maybe focusing too much on the family business or something. It's a moral conflict for Chase.
Okay.
Now, here's the speculation that ramps up the marital stress. Brooke Lynn is a Quartermaine, deeply tied into Michael's world, his family dynamics. The sources strongly suspect that BLQ is going to take Michael's side in this, or at the very least, prioritize the Quartermaine family interests over Chase's crusade to clear Willow.
Ah, okay, I see the setup there. If Chase and BLQ are on opposite sides of a huge legal and moral fight, yeah, that dumps a whole lot of stress, as the source puts it, onto their marriage. But let me push back a little here. Is Chase's dedication to Willow being her biggest defender maybe too noble? Does it feel authentic? Or does it feel a bit like the writers are intentionally pushing him towards Willow to set up this split, making him almost too invested in someone else's problems right after getting married?
That's a really sharp point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it absolutely feels a bit visible, doesn't it? It feels like the writers are using his good guy nature, his moral compass, almost as a tool against his own marriage.
Right.
He's such a stand-up guy. that he can't ignore the injustice he sees happening to Willow, even if it means clashing with BLQ. And this moral crusade creates that necessary distance, maybe makes BLQ feel neglected or misunderstood, especially with the adoption thing already causing resentment.
It's a double whammy.
Exactly. You've got the Geo drama hitting their family plans and the Willow drama hitting their values, their alignment on right and wrong.
Yeah.
That combination, it's pretty lethal for a soap opera marriage.
It really sounds like three strikes. Resentment over parenting plans, a best friend love triangle messing with their home life, and a major disagreement tied to the biggest legal drama in town.
Yeah, the sources seem convinced this marriage is being structurally set up to fail, to make room for the bigger changes. Okay, so we've talked about why Dantalulu and Chase BLQ might need to break up structurally. Now, the key is, where do the pieces land? This next part of the source material moves from that core rumor into speculation, but it's speculation based very much on current storylines and, the vibes these characters are giving off.
Right. Educated guesses based on what we're seeing. Let's start with the alleged new pairing for Dante, Brooklyn Quartermain. Okay, on the surface, that might seem a bit surprising. They haven't been together since forever ago.
Since they were teens, basically.
But the narrative logic seems strong, and it centers, again, on their son, Gio.
Right. Absolutely. The main driver for a potential Dante and Brooklyn pairing is that they're just being forced together constantly because of their son.
Yeah.
Shared responsibility, We know from the intel that if Gio moves back into the Q mansion, like if Ronnie specifically invites him, which is a detail mentioned, Dante and BOQ will naturally end up spending more time together, dealing with daily parent stuff, logistics.
Which allows them to kind of naturally form almost a little family unit. Dante, BLQ, Gio, forcing a new kind of closeness that's more than just co-parenting.
Exactly. And that shared focus, building a stable home for their kid, creates the perfect setup for old feelings to maybe resurface. The sources remind us, they haven't been together since they were kids, basically. But the speculation is the chemistry is still there. It's kind of dormant.
Interesting.
This focus on Gio could bring Dante and BLQ a lot closer in a way that feels organic to them, even if it seems sudden to us watching.
And this whole shift is made possible because Chase is distracted. His hyper-focus on Willow's case creates this blind spot.
Yes, we talked about that. Chase is so wrapped up in proving Willow's innocence, the theory goes he might totally miss his wife slipping away and reconnecting with Dante over, domestic life.
The external drama, the Willow framing plot, provides the space for the internal romantic shift to happen between Dante and BLQ.
It's classic soap writing. Chase's distraction creates an emotional gap, and who fills it? The most convenient person, which in this case is the father of her child.
Okay, that logic tracks. Which brings us straight to the second speculative pairing, Harrison Chase and Willow Tate. This feels like a full circle thing, almost, remembering their history.
It really does. They were very close at one point, as the source says.
Yeah.
And it highlights that they just share a similar outlook on life, fundamentally. They have a lot in common, a very similar temperament, both pretty ethical, measured, often the moral compass for their groups. It's probably why Chase is so invested in her legal fight. Now he sees the injustice, relates to it.
But beyond just sharing values, what's the core emotional driver for them pairing up now? I mean, Willow's married to Michael.
Well, the groundwork was actually laid way before this current crisis. Remember, Chase confided really deeply in Willow about his disappointment over not being able to conceive, how eager he was to adopt, and how upset he was that BLQ delayed things because of Gio.
Oh, right. I remember that conversation.
That showed a huge level of trust, shared vulnerability over a massive life goal for him, fatherhood. And that's where the core motivation supposedly lies now.
So if Chase desperately wants to be a dad, and Willow already has kids, their needs align.
Exactly. Since Chase is driven by that desire to be a father, the sources speculate he could find that fulfillment almost immediately by stepping into a stepdad role for Willow's kids if they got together. He offers her stability, that moral anchor she really needs right now.
It solves Chase's big internal conflict wanting fatherhood and gives Willow emotional support.
And the sources are not shy about comparing him to Willow's current situation.
Oh, what do they say?
There's an explicit comparison in the material. It says Chase would be a much better stepdad than Drew.
Wow, okay, that's pretty direct.
Yeah, that line feels like a clear signal, whether it's writer intention or just informed speculation, that they're positioning Chase as offering a kind of emotional stability or consistent presence that maybe Drew doesn't in that specific role. It really underlines that GH might be focusing on Chase's parental instincts as his main romantic asset moving forward.
All right, so we've hypothetically placed Dante with Brooklyn and Chase with Willow, which brings us back to the central and maybe the most intriguing question from that original rumor. What happens to Lulu?
Yes.
And here, the sources pivot to something really shocking, potentially. It mixes a complex mystery with some very real-world factors. A possible new romance between Lulu and Nathan West, the recently resurrected Nathan West.
Okay, this section needs us to pay close attention because it weaves together plot, character history, and real-life casting stuff. First, let's establish the connection, how they even interact in the story. Lulu was the one who found Nathan after his vehicle crash. She called 911.
And this seems key, Lulu never actually saw his face, did she?
Exactly right. Because the airbag went off, and he was rushed away so quickly, kept hidden.
Yeah.
She was questioned by the cops, but she never identified him. So the anticipated plot point is pretty simple. Nathan will soon approach Lulu, probably to thank her. Thanks for finding me, calling for help. That's their first real face-to-face.
And they naturally have that huge connection through Dante, Nathan's best friend.
That's the perfect icebreaker, isn't it? They have a built-in reason to chat, to do some catching up, talk about Dante, talk about Lulu's life after the coma, Nathan's miraculous return. This interaction is the perfect sort of manufactured stage for them to connect, maybe develop that vibe the sources mention, setting up this potentially shocking new pairing. #, Nova D, the Maxie Jones obstacle in Actor Hell's news.
Okay, but the massive elephant in the room, the huge obstacle to any Nathan-Lulu thing is obviously Nathan's history with Maxie Jones, their epic love story. You'd think Nathan's first thought would be Maxie.
You absolutely would.
And this is where that external real-world context actor availability doesn't just shape the story possibilities, it seems like it fundamentally creates them.
This is honestly the most serious and detailed piece of info in the sources, and it completely dictates the timeline for this whole plot. The actor who plays Maxie, Kirsten Storms, she's not expected back on screen until early 2026, possibly February sweeps specifically.
Okay, let's pause on sweeps. For listeners who aren't deep into TV industry lingo, what does that mean for soaps?
Sweeps are super important. There are specific periods, usually November, February, May, July, when TV ratings are measured really closely to set ad rates. So writers always plan their biggest storylines, their huge reveals, their most dramatic moments for sweeps periods to get those ratings up.
Gotcha. So targeting February 2026 means they're planning something massive for Maxie's return then?
Definitely seems that way. A big reveal, a major confrontation, something game-changing.
And the reason for this really long absence over a year is incredibly serious. It's related to the actor's health plus a move.
It's twofold, yeah. The sources mention a relocation to Nashville and also a significant ongoing personal and medical issue that needs a long recovery time. Fans might remember she had serious brain surgery before for a large cyst.
I remember that, yeah.
This current issue, though, is new, and the sources describe it as terribly scary. She apparently has an aneurysm.
Wow. That's incredibly serious. Did the sources give any specifics about her treatment or recovery?
They're very specific, actually. She's undergoing a procedure called endovascular coiling. We should probably explain what that is.
Please do.
It's a delicate procedure, usually minimally invasive. They feed tiny coils through a catheter up into the brain and use them to basically fill in the aneurysm. The goal is to block blood flow into it, stabilize it, and prevent it from rupturing.
Okay.
The sources are clear that the procedure itself, plus the necessary recovery time afterwards, explains that long timeline until early 2026. It's essential time off for her health.
The implication for the story is just staggering. That long recovery over a year creates this huge vacuum in the plot. It literally creates plenty of time, as the source says, for Nathan to get involved with Lulu, maybe deeply involved, before Maxie can even physically return to Port Charles to react or challenge it.
Exactly. The actor's necessary medical leave fundamentally allows this rumored Lulu-Nathan romance to even exist as a temporary but potentially really impactful plot point.
It forces the writer's hands, almost.
It really does. They have to use Lulu, who happens to be Maxie's best friend, as the temporary romantic interest for Nathan simply because the intended one, Maxie, is unavailable. It's reality directly driving the fiction. We should also mention the sources note Maxie's currently with Spinelli, right?
Yeah.
And there's a possibility she might even choose to stick with Spinelli when she returns, which just adds another layer of complexity to any eventual Maxie-Nathan reunion, if that reunion ever even happens. #, #, C.
the identity crisis and plot ploy.
But the complications around Nathan, they run way deeper than just a love triangle made possible by scheduling, right? The sources talk about this strong fan suspicion, apparently fueled by things said on screen, that this Nathan West might not actually be Nathan West.
Exactly. This is where we get into the identity manipulation plot.
Yeah.
The skin suit idea some fans use is just shorthand for something more complex, the doppelganger theory.
Okay.
The suspicion is really strong, according to these sources, that that's not really Nathan. It might be someone else being controlled or an imposter. The sources even float a specific villain's name based on history and maybe current clues.
Yeah.
Peter August.
Peter August. Okay, he certainly has the history with Maxie. Do the sources suggest why people suspect him specifically? What would his motive be?
Well, Peter's history with Maxie is one of pure violent obsession. His motive would likely be just cruel psychological torture, pure evil, basically. But whether it's Peter specifically or some other force, the point is there's significant doubt that this Nathan is in charge of his own brain or body. And that suspicion makes any romance with Lulu incredibly complicated. Because it wouldn't really be Nathan falling for her. It would be a puppet, someone carrying out a plan.
And given that Lulu is Maxie's best friend, a relationship with this resurrected Nathan would already be sketchy, as the source puts it, even if he was himself. It's a massive betrayal waiting to happen.
Huge betrayal.
But if we run with this doppelganger theory, how does getting involved with Lulu specifically fit into the villain's plan to hurt Maxie?
Okay, this is where the plot ploy theory gets really chilling. If this isn't the real Nathan, the theory goes, he might be romancing Lulu specifically because she's Maxie's best friend, to inflict the absolute maximum psychological pain on Maxie when she finally returns.
Oh, wow. That's dark.
It is. The sources connect this back to a larger conspiracy idea, that the same shadowy forces who supposedly brought Nathan back are also the ones who intentionally put Maxie into her current coma state in the story.
So the villain has a calculated plan using the time Maxie is incapacitated.
Yes. The romance with Lulu isn't random. It's designed to be the most devastating blow imaginable when Maxie eventually wakes up or returns. The villain is essentially using Maxie's medical crisis, her absence, as the perfect window to set up this ultimate betrayal, one that will wreck her relationship with her best friend and the man she loves all at once.
God, that's...
In the world of soaps, the sources basically say nothing is out of bounds at this point, especially when a villain has a clear time frame to work with. That necessary time off for the actor's recovery is tragically being weaponized by the story's villain for their most twisted plot.
That twist, using the best friend as an unknowing pawn to set up the real victim, that elevates this whole Lulu-Nathan thing from just romantic shuffling to something much darker. High-stakes psychological drama, and it's all fundamentally enabled because the actor playing Nathan is available while the actor playing Maxie is necessarily out for medical reasons. Hashtag outro.
So look, if even, say, half of these detailed rumors and educated guesses actually happen,
Yeah.
we are looking at a massive, probably permanent shift across the entire General Hospital campus.
Yeah, it feels huge.
You start with the foundational relationship, Dante and Lulu, splitting up when everyone expected a reunion. That directly leads to the crumbling of what seemed like a solid marriage, Chase and Brooklyn. And then from that fallout, you potentially get two new, very distinct pairings. Dante and BLQ finding common ground with their kid, and Chase and Willow connecting over shared values and maybe Chase's desire for fatherhood.
Right.
And then the wild card. Lulu's future is tied to this incredibly complicated high-stakes return of Nathan West, whose identity, whose motives, they're completely up in the air. It's a massive reset.
What really stands out to me through all this is how clearly these potential changes reflect those classic soap opera mechanics, using external factors like actor availability due to very serious health issues to actually drive the story forward. The writers aren't just making stuff up randomly. They seem to be expertly using this enforced time gap, this vacuum created by Kirsten Storm's necessary leave, to build future drama. For you, the listener, it's a fascinating peek behind the curtain, isn't it? Seeing how real-world medical news could directly impact who ends up kissing who come February sweeps 2026. It's the structure of soaps laid bare.
It really is. It's a rare, clear example of reality forcing fiction's hand, and the writers taking full calculated advantage of it.
So this whole deep dive leaves us with one final, maybe provocative thought for you to mull over. It connects that external factor directly to the story's potential intent. If there's this deep suspicion that Nathan isn't himself, that he's being used as a tool, maybe by Peter August.
Hmm.
How does Kirsten Storms' expensive, necessary medical time off fundamentally enable this specific, twisted, villainous plot, the manipulation of Lulu, that maybe couldn't happen otherwise?
Hmm.
That absence, needed for recovery, tragically becomes the perfect narrative window for the villain to orchestrate maximum betrayal. Setting things up so when Maxie finally returns, it's not to a happy reunion, but maybe to a devastating confrontation with her best friend, seemingly involved with the love of her life.
That's definitely something profound to chew on while we wait and wait for that potential massive reveal in February 2026.
Indeed. Until next time, keep watching, keep analyzing those plot mechanics, and maybe look for those real-world strings pulling the fictional characters.